Hello everyone. So today I'm going to talk about APIs and how they relate to Bot Sentinel and the activity of Bot Sentinel and potentially the motivation of Chris Boozy. So I talked before about Chris Boozy and how he's attacked people on LawTube, such as that umbrella guy, Nate the lawyer, and Nick Rakita. I keep forgetting their names, but there might be more, but they were attacked for neutrally commenting on the Johnny Depp trial against Amber Heard. And even though these people have no affiliations with Johnny Depp whatsoever and are not Johnny Depp fans, possibly that umbrella guy might be a little bit, but certainly not the two lawyers. Even though they're not Johnny Depp fans, they were falsely described by Chris Boozy as being Johnny Depp fans, of being toxic trolls. And he got them harassed, banned from Twitter in the case of Nick Rakita, and even briefly banned from YouTube after a false flagging fake attack that was because Nick Rakita had something to do with supporting, what was it, Kiwi Farms, and that involved Keffel. They got Keffel so upset that Keffel started an attack on Nick Rakita. So did all that sort of stuff, and the motivation, well, it seems to be most recently because he was a paid employee of Amber Heard. And even though the only payment we can prove is that he was paid to be an expert to testify in her trial, there is certainly scope that he has, well, even if that was the only payment he got, that he was given that payment not actually to testify but actually to do this. It's possible that he wasn't. It's possible that he was only actually asked to testify, that he didn't testify because he wasn't needed, and this is a coincidence. But often when we look at coincidences, we look at, does that make sense? And I think the simple answer is it doesn't. Because if this was a coincidence, he's breaking serious ethical issues, because he shouldn't be commenting about Amber Heard, let alone about people who neutrally comment about it. You don't see any of the other expert witnesses doing that. You don't see that psychiatrist, nobody else is doing that. So we've got to look at why he might be doing this. And one part of this that I came across was the fact that he has access to Twitter's API. So I wanted to talk about that. So Bot Sentinel has access to Twitter's API. What does that mean? Well, an API, short for Application Programming Interface, is something that most computer programs, certainly that attached to the internet, have. And the reason that they have it is because this is so one computer can talk to another computer without having an individual person looking at it. And this is important for a number of reasons, but one of the big important reasons is so that passwords don't go to just some IT guy. So it's to stop companies having to trust their IT guy with all their passwords. Because goodness, can you just imagine if you were working at a company and your IT guy had all of your passwords? What would you do with it? If you're that IT guy, you're going to be very tempted to sell those passwords to someone else, or just to use them yourself to hope that some of them let you into their banks. So that by having it go to a computer and from a computer, there's no human interaction. And in fact, it's quite difficult for humans to find them out. You might think, well, what do Twitter passwords have to do with anything? Well, as long as it's a different password and it only gets into your Twitter account, it doesn't matter for anything else, or not as much at least. But a lot of people use the same password for multiple different things. And let's say that you have that password and you also use that same password you use for Twitter, you use for your email, or you use for your bank. Well, if you use it for your bank and you give that username and password to a hacker, and then they work out what your banking number is somehow, then they can steal all your money. Oopsies. Maybe your bank has insurance, you're okay, but still could cause a bit of problems because banks don't tend to like to give you money back. They'll say it's your fault. And you trying to prove that you were hacked, particularly if you weren't, because it was actually on an API of someone else who wasn't hacked, who just gave it to Chris Boozy. Well, you know, that's something that's going to be difficult to prove. But there's a lot of other reasons for it as well, because even if they don't log in directly to your bank account and clean your bank account out, what if they log into your email and then use that email address to change, like to commit identity theft and start putting things in your name, take out a loan in your name, but it's their name, but it's using your email address? And what if they start businesses in your name? What if they start websites? And even simply, what if they contact somebody on your contact list? So you don't lose access to your email address. You might not even know they're doing it. And they're sending emails off to your friends and family asking for money. But the money doesn't go to you, it goes to them. And that's just the very simple things. Even if they didn't have your password, just having your demographic details, it can go to a scammer, and the scammer can then, well, they have a bit more information that helps them to get a scam. So let's say, for example, and I don't know the actual numbers, but let's say that a general phishing scam where they just send it to random people, let's say it works 1 in every 10,000 times. How much does that go down by if they know what your favourite football team is? How much does it go down by if they know your full name, your date of birth? We don't know how much it goes down by. We don't know how much the chances are straight away. Maybe it's 1 in 10,000, maybe it's 1 in 5,000. But we do know that that's going to improve their chances. And once they get you, they're going to steal money off you. And that's ultimately what this information is about. It's not really just about passwords. It does include passwords, but it's about anything. Now, Bot Sentinel, one of the main parts of it is that it diagnoses users. That's what it does. Yeah, it's saying that it's doing it for stopping harassment. As I demonstrated previously, that doesn't seem very likely to be the actual reason, because it's not very successful in doing that. It's very inaccurate. It's targeting people such as Nate the lawyer, for example, whose only crime was commenting neutrally on the Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard trial. And he's essentially said, well, 95% of the world, because that's how many people oppose Amber Heard, they're all trolls. They're all bad users. So if he's got it that inaccurate, what is it really about? Is it really about something else? And what if, I mean, I don't know, but what if he's using that API data, and even without the API data, just having a bot, he could scan Twitter and get, just from posts, he could get some demographic data that he could then sell to scammers. Obviously anyone could do that with a bot, but what if he was doing that as a bot and then got the access to the API and was able to do it to a higher level? Indeed, what if that was the real purpose of Bot Sentinel? It kind of lines up. If his purpose of Bot Sentinel was not to stop trolls, but to advertise, not to trolls, but to scammers. And of course, scammers and trolls do overlap significantly. A lot of scammers are trolls. A lot of trolls are scammers. Of course, there are trolls that aren't scammers. There are scammers that aren't trolls, but there is a significant overlap. So by deliberately having it inaccurate, that might not be a mistake. That might be on purpose, so that he can sort of go to the scammers and say, hey, this is the group of people that you should target. These are their demographics. In some cases, here's their password. Now, of course, if he's doing that, it wouldn't make any sense to do it in one go, because Twitter would notice, assuming Twitter aren't in on it. We don't know if Twitter are in on this, or if they're just naive and not aware of the massive security risks that giving somebody who's not even an employee access to their API. And I'll tell you the difference. So if you gave the access to the API to an employee, that employee would be legally bound to not look at that data, and they could be tracked very easily. If you give it to an external person, such as Chris Boozy, they're under no such obligations. Sure, you might have a contract with them that says, oh yes, we're not going to use that data, but it's very hard to follow through with. It's a very dangerous situation to put in. And in fact, it's dangerous for every user of Twitter that Twitter has that relationship with someone else. And it wouldn't even matter if Chris Boozy and Bot Sentinel had never done anything wrong, it's still dangerous. But the fact that they have done things wrong, and they have done things wrong related to Meghan Markle and Amber Heard, and particularly this latest lot, should mean that he should be losing that access straight away and be banned from Twitter. So, look, I can't say that Twitter are in on it. Could be they're naive. I can't even say for certain that he's definitely doing this. But it does look like it, doesn't it? It's sort of looks like there's a decent chance that perhaps the reason that he made Bot Sentinel was actually to sell off clumps of data, demographics to people for profit. And then that would probably highlight him as an internet assassin, an internet hitman for people like Meghan Markle and Amber Heard to use for profit. And he's not doing it out of the goodness of his heart. He's not doing it to be a nice guy. He's doing it because people pay him. And I'd argue he's not a nice guy. Doesn't appear to be a nice guy. I followed some of his tweets, they're absolutely horrendous. He looks to me like a bully and a stalker, and probably somebody that's involved in underhanded dealings, possibly with scammers. Now, I might be wrong, hopefully I am, but that does look like what's going on, or something like it perhaps. Anyway, that's it from me. Bye-bye.